Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome back. My name is Ebony Coger. This is Queen Sister Speaks. Today is Saturday, May 29th, 2026. And on Saturdays, I like to do the card of the week. Keep in mind, you are always to take what you need, throw the rest out. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. Okay? So I'm going to give this 3 quick shuffles. You got to forgive me. I had a root canal, okay, my front tooth, and it's still a little sensitive, right? So just bear with me, okay? So I'm going to give it 3 quick shuffles. One for knowledge. Two for wisdom. And 3 for understanding. You may want to get out your journals or something to write with, your iPad, whatever, because I like to, it is not my scope or expertise, but I do like to talk about the astrology of the cards, and I like to brainstorm and see what other things we can get. As you can see, I have a lot of cards, so I encourage you, if you are a reader yourself, that you look through your cards and see what other things you can pick up from them, okay? So the card that I have for you this week, I have here, the Emperor in reverse, with the bottom, the Ten of Swords. So with the Emperor, most readers, we all can agree that it is Aries energy, okay? So the motto for Aries is I am, and it rules the head, okay? So in the upright here, this is someone you see here. We have this person sitting on their throne, okay? And they're blowing their top, right? They're very comfortable. This kind of gives me anger management, all right? Because anger isn't a bad thing. I was listening to Joyce Myers a long time ago, and I actually have a book up there that is Managing Your Emotions. And the way she explained it is that our anger is a signal that something is wrong, okay? So, and most of us may be familiar, anger but do not sin. But sometimes we suppress our anger, okay? And we don't talk about it. Ten of Swords, 3rd decan of Gemini, okay? So this is not always a good thing, okay? When we're suppressing our anger, because what happens is that we let things keep piling up. And it'll be just the tiniest little thing, the slightest thing, and then we explode, okay? So you may have some anger inside of you that you may not even be aware of. It may be dormant, okay? Doesn't mean that it's not there, okay? And it doesn't mean that you have complete control over it. You may be suppressing it, and it's showing in other areas of your life. I believe you're not talking about it at all, okay? This, right, my window is open. This is someone, the Ten of Swords is when it's a done deal. Okay? And instead of talking about it and expressing our anger, we pretend like everything is fine. Okay? So, let's talk about the astrology a little bit. Now, Aries is the ruler of the first house. Now, if you have your astrology chart, your horoscope, your astrology chart, Aries may not be in your first house. But just because you do not see Aries as your first house does not mean Aries disappeared out of the sky when you was born. It was just in another house when you was born. So we're going to talk about the first house. The ruling planet is Mars. You know, interestingly, I took a classic mythology class at the university that I graduated from. And Aries wasn't the best of a fighter, right? Most of in mythology, Aries got whooped, okay? Always got beat up all the time. Out of the stories that I have in my book is very interesting because you may be under the impression, like I was, that, you know, because he's the god of war, right? But in the stories that I read, he never wins. So that's the interesting thing about astrology. We have these overgeneralized depictions of a zodiac sign. And even though people can have some of those qualities or characteristics or descriptions of a zodiac sign, it doesn't apply to the whole group, okay? Because there's other things. I'm working on my astrology, right? I need to get certified, but there's other things in astrology that tells us about ourselves or another person, even our temperaments, all right? And for some of you, you're not getting mad enough, okay? Sometimes we be trying to keep the peace, right? Because this could be like keeping the peace. We be trying to keep the peace and don't say anything, and we let people, this is my doormat, okay? And we let people run all over us, okay? There's a difference between being aggressive and being assertive, okay? We don't want to cause any problems. We don't want to, you know, seem like we're a troublemaker and things. But sometimes that's not a good thing, okay? And let's see, Aries. So, I have my cards out. So, as you know, Aries symbol, or you may not know, symbol is the ram, okay? Its ruling planet is Mars. Now with Mars, some of the key words will be energy. And here you may even be lacking energy, okay? Because you see this person is just laid out, like this could be even exhaustion, okay? Action, not taking any action, not doing anything. Initiative, okay? Maybe you're a type of person, or you want to be careful not to wait for someone to tell you it has to be done, okay? Maybe you're the type of person who waits to the last minute until it has to be. My mother used to say, you don't wait until the bottom falls out, okay? Mars also means assertive. Again, assertive versus aggressive, okay? It ain't what you say, it's how you say it. And you can be direct and you can be confident in the way you speak, not cocky, because there's a difference between that too. But just being blunt and not mincing words. Well, and you can't be like that all the time. Okay? This is about being bold too. Mars energy is about being bold. A lot of people aren't bold, all right? And that's okay, because all of us are not the same, right? Some of us do things in a different way. This is aggressive too, right? Now, I understand. You may not be an aggressive type person, all right? You may not be a fighter, okay? Because remember, I told you, this is not a fighter, right? This is somebody who gets whooped, all right? Or that allows somebody to be a doormat or a punching bag for somebody, even emotionally or verbally as a punching bag, right? You might be the type that wants to keep the peace and don't say anything. But sometimes that doesn't work. If you think about history, if people were all about keeping the peace, right? Not saying anything. For myself and a lot of you out there, we wouldn't have the things that we have today, because somebody had to shake some things up, right? To blow their top and say enough is enough. Mars is also about being courageous, okay? Sometimes you do have to have courage, even when you are afraid. Okay, there's a quote that talks about when you're scared is the point where you know you're finna do something life-changing or bold. Okay, this is also too about anger. Normally, if I didn't have this Ten of Swords on the bottom of the deck, I would say keep the peace and a cool person, chill, everything calm, right? But I really believe this is suppressed anger, right? You may be really angry, but you're just not talking about it. So you might be the type of person, and I did this when I was a kid, that gives the silent treatment, okay? I would get so mad when I was a kid, and I wouldn't talk to nobody. I wouldn't talk to nobody because I didn't know, number one, how to express myself without blowing a fuse, okay? And this is something that you may want to work with whatever therapist, coach, even if you're in the professional field, you know, conflict resolution skills, to learn how to use I statements, okay? I apologize if I have offended you in any way, but I feel that there is some misunderstanding between us, and I would like to resolve this. It's just an example, okay? So back to Aries. Aries can be egotistical, right? The thing about the ego and the first house is all about ourselves, right? And it's a difference. The ego is there for a reason. It's our identity. It's just who we are. It's what the world sees of us, right? It's a difference of having egos like seasoning, right? You put in the right amount of seasoning in it, but then you could overdo it. You could put too much salt into it if you're a cook. If you put too much salt or you put too much pepper. Sometimes you can do a little too much with your ego. And sometimes you have to put yourself in check. Now, we hear people say a lot about the ego and everything, but it's an unhealthy ego and there is a positive ego, okay? And a healthy ego. It's not all about you. You know, you have a healthy amount of self-importance, but it's not like you're the only person that matters and nobody else matters. That's not how the world works, right? So Aries, another key word, and it's not the only words for it, this is just general, is impulsive, right? You may take your time before you say anything, okay? You're not just the type to blurt out or to do something on a whim. Vigor, okay? Aggressive, fast, and forceful. There's no force here. This is dormant. I would say, how does it go? You're slow to anger. Okay? But because you're slow to anger and you don't speak about when you are angry, I think this is a downfall for you. Okay? Sometimes it is a good thing to be quiet. Okay? And let it go. But that's when you have to use your wise mind. Okay? Would this be beneficial for me to lose my top, to blow my top and say something? Or can I let it slide? And each one of us have different situations and life events where you need to use your better judgment. Okay? So when it comes to the house, right? So this is about your physical self. Okay? Your physical self, your behavior. And like I said, just because you're Aries or whatever sign you are, doesn't mean that you act like this. Okay? Personality. And your outward appearance. Okay? This also gives me, if you didn't tell anybody what your sign was, they wouldn't know. It's kind of giving me like how you meet somebody and say, oh, I'm an Aries. Like, you don't act like an Aries. Well, that's an overgeneralized term. Okay? So, I want to give you a couple keywords for the Emperor in reverse. All right? Normally, in some depictions, you will see the father, right? Or a male or an emperor or something like that. Somebody who is bold and who has control over their life. All right? With these two combinations, I think you're lacking control in some area of your life. That's why you want to look and see where Mars is in your astrology chart, and you also want to look and see where Aries is in your chart, and that will tell you what part of your life that you probably need to take more action on. Okay? So when I think of Aries, I think of the Emperor, I think of it like taking charge, building your empire, having control, not for any games, okay? But I think there's a lack of control, okay, that maybe you're letting other people run your life. And this is for adults, so I'm not talking to no kids, Do you let people have too much power over you to the point where it is defeating you? Okay? Maybe this is to some things you have been saying to yourself. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. You want to be careful of how your I statements. This also means negative I statements. Negative talk. Negative self-talk. Okay? What are you saying to yourself in your head? What have the world said to you? Sometimes I was reading an article today about sometimes we sabotage ourselves. Okay? We beat ourselves down. We beat ourselves down because of the things that we say to ourselves. Okay? So you may want to create, or you can go on Pinterest, you can use AI, you can come off the top of your head. You need to think for yourself, one, okay? I don't tell grown people what to do. That's not my job, okay? But you want to make statements that relate to you, okay? I like Lisa Nichols, and she had an exercise years ago that I tried myself. And you take a piece of paper and you write down in one column everything bad that you say about yourself. Everything bad. And then you go back through. What I did, I took a pencil, and what I did is I erased it. And then I took a red pen. And I wrote good things about myself. So you have to reprogram your mind. And you got to reprogram how you talk to yourself, reprogram how you allow people to talk to you too. Okay? Because in today's world, people think they can say anything, especially since they thumb bangers on social media. They be talking mad reckless, mad slick. Okay? Everybody gangster. Okay? So I just want to touch on a couple of these. So another thing, we're on the mental plane, okay? When you're dealing with the emperor. This is the physical plane. I apologize. And tomorrow is Mother's Day, okay? So this could even be, this is not about the father, this is about the mother, okay? Maybe you're not talking to your mother, and you have your reasons, okay? Maybe your mother is not on this plane no more, and you might be battling with that, okay? But when it comes to the patriarch, okay, and a lot of people don't understand matriarchal families. Sometimes, particularly with my own family, we had a patriarch in her family, right? But he crossed over. And then my grandmother was the matriarch of the family, right? It wasn't because it was absent or he left or anything. They were married long time, right? But when people came later, they just seen a woman. So I want you to be careful what you assume about matriarchal families, okay? So the shadow side, which this speaks of the shadow side, is dominating, okay? It took me some practice. You might want to practice on your listening skills. And I'm not just talking about, and we talk about it, you've heard other readers and other content creators about effective listening skills, okay? And not dominating a conversation, okay? Or trying to dominate others, right? Or letting people dominate you. Excessive control. Okay? Everybody isn't like you. Okay? Everybody doesn't have the same beliefs as you. They don't have the same religion as you. And just because you're the same ethnicity doesn't mean that you're all the same. Okay? That is not wise to think that. Okay? So, rigid. Now, some things you don't have to move on, all right? But you kind of want to be more flexible in your thinking, okay? And that's what I'm saying, to understand that everybody isn't like you, and everybody doesn't think like you do. In flexibility, brutality, right? And war. So this can be somebody too, right? This can be somebody. Now, one thing that we don't talk enough about is verbal abuse. I told you, everybody is a gangster now. Everybody is a thumb banger, or they talk real reckless behind these screens and stuff, right? You meet them, they probably wouldn't crack an egg on Easter. However, I want to say this clearly, that abuse is an abuse, right? And we shouldn't sweep under the table or justify people being verbally abusive, right? There's all types of abuse, but this can be someone who is verbally abusive. Either you need to check yourself and watch what you say, or recognize that you're dealing with verbally abusive people. Okay? Because abuse, it can be physical, financial, mental, emotional, sexual. It comes in different forms. Okay? Right now, we talk a lot about the psychological effects of abuse, gaslighting, deflecting, and projection, and all that. Right? But we don't talk about how we address one another, how we talk to one another. Now, depending on who you're around, sometimes this is acceptable. Just depends on who you're around and what kind of setting. But when somebody is being cruel, where it's affecting you mentally, their words and how you feel and what they're saying to you, you may want to rethink that. Okay? So, that's all that I have for you. Thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Ebony Coger. This is Queen Sister Speaks. I will see you tomorrow for Sunday spiritual reading. Take care. Ciao.